This is my latest little project. You may have seen before that I bought this off eBay. It is spares or repairs because it has numerous faults. So I'm in the process of fixing everything that's wrong with this little tiny 4x4. I've already sorted out the misfire issue, which was the big problem. Whoever advised this previous owner that the car was a goner didn't check the basics, such as the spark plugs. What I've also noticed is there's a lot of dried mud underneath the vehicle, so I think what I'm going to do is blast everything with the jet wash to clean it all out and get it nice and tidy underneath there. The bottom of the vehicle is actually in fantastic condition. Those rear subframes are prone to rust if you don't look after them, so I need to make sure that that's taken care of. There was a lot of mud underneath these wheel arches, tucked into these little crannies. Now there is one particular place that you need to make sure you clean. It's this little shelf up here, which still has grime in it, still has mud, still has sand, even though I've blasted it. So I'm gonna have to keep blasting it until that's clean. Because what happens is you get mud up there, you get mud behind these wheel arches, behind these things, these plastic pieces of trim, and it just rots your car away, no matter how good you look after it on the outside. Why there is this little shelf here is anybody's guess. There's a couple of places on the Panda that you need to be careful of, and this is one of them. The other is the rear subframe, and the other is underneath the windscreen panel, where the drains block up and then flood into the car and into the electrics and all sorts of things. Yeah, there is just a heck of a lot of mud, and I am not finished yet. I mean, look at the back there, just as bad. But other than that, it looks really nice and solid, actually, really nice and clean. Look at the chassis rails here. The rear subframe is actually just surface rust, so that's good. So I'm trying to clean that as much as I can. But yeah, the mud is everywhere. It was inside the back of the hubs, in the brake calipers, in the back of the wheels. So yeah, somebody had a bit of fun with this. And these things are absolutely brilliant in the mud. They're so light, they just float over everything, it seems. So I've taken previous Panda 4x4s, places that I took my Land Rovers with low range. So I'm really looking forward to getting this little tiny 4x4 back on the road. I don't know if it's the world's smallest 4x4, because the Mark 1 and 2 Pandas were smaller than this, but it must be the smallest modern 4x4, surely. Anyway, I'm going to carry on blasting away all that mud. There is still a lot of muck behind these wheel arches. You need to remove the fixings that hold the wheel arch in. There's two 10mm bolts on either side, and then there's a couple of screws. Now I've got one screw here in the front that is rusted in place. I'm going to use an impact driver, which is quite a cool, useful tool. You put the screw head, the Phillips head or whatever in the end there, and then you smack it with a hammer, and that jolt loosens the screw. Hopefully, that's the theory anyway. I want to get this all out because I can't in good conscience leave all this muck behind that wheel arch liner, and then it just rusts away. And my Nilfisk jet wash keeps making a noise, except when I look at him. See? If I look at him, he doesn't make a noise. But if I turn away, he'll make... There you go. You have a problem, buddy? Do you? Right, so I'm going to smack this with the impact wrench and hopefully it's going to remove that screw. Then I've got some screws over here to remove for this aftermarket mud flap, which I must say has done a good job of keeping all the crud from the sills. Let me show you how much muck gets in behind your wheel liners. Now these wheel liners are great for keeping the road noise down and attempting to protect your body in the wheel well, but it traps a lot of muck. That's just the residue that's on the wheel arch liner. Look at what's in here. That's why your sills rot out. All this mud gets trapped behind the plastic against the metal of the body, and that is why everything rusts out. I mean, there is a lot of it in here, and what I was particularly worried about was up here, the top of the spring, in this recess, obviously at the back there on that ledge that I told you about, but also in here. So with the wheel arch liner off, and I can now properly clean inside this wheel arch and get behind all of this plastic, because that will cause the actual arch to rust out here behind this trim. I have to replace that piece there already, so I think what I might do is just pop all of this off and make sure that it's properly clean at the back here, because I don't want it to rust behind this plastic trim. Do yourself a favor when you're cleaning your car, or after every winter or before every winter, get into these little areas here and remove as much of this crud behind the plastic wheel trim as you can. This is not the only car that suffers from this problem. Every single car with the plastic wheel trim and plastic trim on the outside of the body is going to trap moisture and muck and mud, which holds on to the moisture for longer, and it just rots out your car prematurely. Not always salt. So now I can clean it, which is grand. Right, so I've removed that piece of trim just with a plastic trim remover like this. Don't use a screwdriver because it will damage your body. Slide this in at the front, pop it off, and then just move backwards. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these connectors, but look at that mud that's trapped behind the trim all the way down to the bottom. And like I said, this is why these parts of cars rust. The sill down there and up here, because this muck gets trapped behind it. So you need to remove this every now and again and clean all the crud from behind this, and then just treat it if you can, if you need to. I can see down in the bottom there, I'm going to need to treat that, but I'm glad I'm doing this. Just take a look at this. Look at that muck in there. There's some surface rust, so the wheel arch liner has done its job, but this is going to rust the sill out. I mean, just look at this. That came out of just that one little spot over there. I am astonished. I think what's probably happened is that this little car had a very charmed life. It's got a almost full service history, and I think the previous owner bought it primarily as a plaything, took it mudding, and wasn't just intending to throw it away, I guess, when the misfire happened, and just thought, oh, I'll go and buy another one. But this is a perfectly good car, and it will be saved. I'm going to clean all that out. You can see there's a bit of rust starting there, so yeah, I'm glad I did this. Just take your time, do it properly. So now that things have dried up a little bit, you can see I'm dealing with some surface rust on the trailing arms and the subframe. There's a few bits of surface rust here on the bodywork. So this is a nice opportunity to get in here with the metal brush, try and get some of these loose bits off, and then to paint this with some Genolite rust converter, just to make sure that all of this stuff stays in good condition and doesn't rust away completely, because these rear subframes for the 169 series Fiat Panda 4x4s are different to the two-wheel drives and are very rare, very difficult to get a hold of. So I want to make sure I can look after this. So now I'm just going to convert this rust. Do you remember the little ledge at the back of the spring? Well, I'm getting in there with this rust converter so that I can convert all of that surface rust that's in there into metal again. And a little bit on the body as well, in those holes, and then inside the wheel well as well, and particularly down in the bottom corner. Now let's do the back. So let me give you a look around here once I've been through it with the Genelite. I've tried to get to as much of the subframe and the suspension mounting points as I can without stripping everything off. And now I'll move on to do the other side. So I've let all of the rust converter dry now. It can wipe off if you don't want it to be visible like this. You can see where it's converted all the rust, it goes like a purple color. So this extra residue, I'm not going to worry about it because it'll probably wash off with water on the road and that sort of thing. If you found this video interesting or useful, if you just enjoyed watching me clean and rust-proof the underside of this tiny little 4x4, give it a thumbs up, will you? And hit the subscribe button and stick around for the next one. That'll be good. Thanks for watching.